hitting the ball over here, because this would be, like if I was putting an X on here, right? This would be where this ball would then be hit. The third shot would go over here. But that's not where we want to hit that ball. Welcome to the channel, or welcome back to the channel. I'm your host. My name is Tony Roig. Not only am I a full-time pickleball professional, training players just like you to play your best pickleball, I'm also the originator of what we're going to talk about in this video, the concept of respect the X. If you want to see me in my younger years and see where it all started, I'll put a video up here and you can check that out. What we're going to be focusing on this video is this concept of when to use respect the X. I've had several conversations recently with other players who are respect the X heads. You know, they follow respect the X, but the players are sometimes misapprehending the scope of the application of respect the X. So I wanted to take an opportunity to clarify the concept of respecting the X. If you're not familiar with respect the X, at the end of this video, I'll link to a playlist that'll give you everything you need to know about the respect the X from the beginning to the end, including when to break it. Respect the X is a tremendously powerful concept that if you understand it and start applying it, will solve a lot of the problems when you're playing doubles, because it deals with a part of the court that creates a lot of tension among pickleball players trying to figure out who's supposed to take that particular shot. So at the end of the video, I'll link to that and you can check that out then. Let's dive into when to use respect the X. And what I want to do is I want to focus on when not to use respect the X, or when respect the X doesn't apply. At the end, during the video, I'm going to fill these in for you. So you'll have the 1, 2, and 3. It's a continual sentence that gives you a clear rule as to when to use respect the X. But first, let's come over to the court board. And I've set up the court in a way that I'll explain in a second, but that will help us demonstrate when when respect the X just doesn't apply, right? When it's not intended to apply. And what can happen is, you know, you may follow respect the X, right? And that's awesome. But sometimes if you're applying it in a context that it doesn't work, then, you know, you're not doing yourself a service. So I want to clarify that and demystify that in this video. So I've set up the board here where you have you have the serve team here, the return team here, blues serve with the S's and R return with the yellow. And so what happens is the concept of respect the X is a ball receiving concept, okay? So let's assume there's a serve and there's a return of serve coming along this axis here, okay? Again, at the end, I'll link to a playlist on respect the X. If you haven't seen it before, you'll understand this better when you watch that. But the idea is that when this ball is traveling along this axis here, this player should be the one to take the shot. Forehand, backhand, doesn't matter. It's the idea that this player should be the one to take the shot. That's a good application of respect the X. Where we get into trouble is when we try and generate our shot using respect the X. So let's vary it up a little bit now. So I have the serve and I have the return of serve going now to the other player over here, to the other serve team member. So the ball's going over here. In this case, with this kind of return of serve along this axis here, okay, respect the X simply never comes into existence, right? It never springs into action because there is no X to respect there. That's a clear ball, clearly going to be hit by this player. This player is never going to come over and hit this ball all the way over here. The difficulty arises when this player now decides I'm supposed to respect the X with the shot that I'm originating, right? With the shot that I'm hitting. So they end up hitting the ball over here, because this would be, like if I was putting an X on here, right? This would be where this ball would then be hit. The third shot would go over here. But that's not where we want to hit that ball in this situation. If you're a system member, you know where you're supposed to hit your third shot. It's in your serve side wellness check. So we talk about hitting the third shot to the moving player. So in this case, you actually want to hit the ball back along the same basic route that it came on to get it back to this player. But if you're applying respect the X here, if you're trying to basically, you know, get respect the X and apply it to every single thing that happens on the pickleball court, you're going to end up hitting the shot where you don't want it to, because you're going to end up hitting the shot over here on the X as opposed to here, which is a straight shot. So respect the X is not a shot originating strategy. It's not a shot originating concept. It is a shot receiving concept. So as you apply it, you need to understand that the better you understand it, the better you'll be able to use the theory. And I'm going to fill this in right now. Before I do that, however, I'd like to hear from you. Is respect the X something that you hear about where you play, or something that you use yourself, something that you followed? Are you a respect the X head, or not a Respect the X head yet, because you should become one, the plays I give you at the end, let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoy this kind of content, this kind of really useful strategy content, make sure you subscribe to the channel. One last thing, we have a Respect the X guide, absolutely free. You can get it. You just need to be on the BetterPickleball.com email list. So basically, you just give us your email because we need to send it to you. So when you join our email list, we send you a copy of it, and you're good to go. So if you want to get a copy of the Respect the X guide, subscribe to the BetterPickleball.com email list, and we'll send you that. All right, let's complete these sentences then. So Respect the X is to be used all the time. Okay, so it's an all the time concept. This is not a once in a while concept. You can break it, but it's always there. You break it with intentionality. When your team is responding to a ball. So that's where it's not where your team is originating the shot. So it's not when you're originating, it's when you're responding. Remember I showed you here with the serve team, the return came this way, this player was going to hit it. You're receiving a ball, then you Respect the X in those situations, and you're responding to a ball that is in the middle of the court. So if a ball goes to the outside of the court, so basically like this shot here, Respect the X just never gets activated because there's nothing to talk about. That's clearly this player's shot. If the ball goes all the way over here, right, so the return goes all the way over there, then Respect the X never gets activated because it's clearly this player's ball. Respect the X comes into play when the ball's traveling across this middle zone here. The way it's traveling is going to tell you who should hit that ball. As I mentioned earlier, if you want to learn more about Respect the X, really dive into this concept, I'll put the whole playlist up here. If you want that downloadable guide that I mentioned to you, I'll put a link here where you can click on that link, give us an email, and we'll send you the guide for you to check out. If you enjoy this kind of content, keep watching the channel. We're restarting Project 4.0. Project 4.0 is a very powerful idea to get you along a path towards becoming a benchmark 4.0 player. And I'll explain that more in our upcoming Project 4.0 video. Until then, be well.